The footage you are watching is of a victim with uncontrollable blood pressure, or UBP. No known doctor has ever been smart or interested enough to measure a patient's blood pressure on a minute-by-minute basis. If any had done so, they would then know the cause of the problem and therefore not be so useless in helping their UBP patients. Uncontrollable blood pressure's natural results are stroke, heart attack and death. Footage was taken about 250 metres from a local government hospital. A German RDF meter for measuring wireless transmitter radiation was pointed directly at the bank of mobile phone transmitters on the hospital's rooftop. Like the BP machine readings you are watching, the radiation meter showed severe up and down readings depending on how many transmissions the mobile phone towers were sending at the time. On 9 December 2017, Channel 7 News said that a quarter of all Australians who are on blood pressure drugs have or are very close to uncontrollable blood pressure. My doctor said those people on blood pressure medication would be more than 1 million, which means that 250,000 or more people are now facing early death and or vegetable status through stroke and heart attack. To verify if it is wireless device radiation causing your severely high blood pressure, take your BP machine with you close to a mobile phone tower such as your local hospital or the even more intense NBN tower and see what happens. If your blood pressure changes dramatically from its usual medicated normal, then you very clearly have proof of what is causing the problem in the first place, and it means you must do something about it or risk very severe medical consequences. Don't rely on your doctor's BP drugs for radiation-caused uncontrollable blood pressure, because it is not any form of recognised hypertension, and no drug will stop or relieve it, as you can see from the victim who is currently on 2 different types of drugs. The only reasonable explanation for an increase in blood pressure of 60 or more systolic points in less than a minute is a severe change to the voltage level being received from the heart's 2 tiny electrical impulse centres. Normally these 2 tiny electricity generators make heart muscles contract rhythmically in sequence to squeeze blood around the body. We commonly call this a heartbeat. Wireless device radiation, or EMR, changes the strength of electricity received by the heart's pumping muscles, causing them to contract more violently, thereby raising blood pressure to dangerous levels in mere seconds. The stronger the radiation, the higher the electricity received by the heart, and the more violent and forceful the muscle's contraction. Wireless radiation also disrupts regular heartbeat rhythms and commonly can cause them to become erratic or missing. A frequent pattern is 2 beats, miss 1, 2 beats, miss 1, etc. Wireless transmitter radiation, or EMR, warnings can be seen on sensitive electrical appliances and in hospitals where patients with pacemakers or heart conditions might visit. This warning about EMR killing people once had to be placed in car manufacturers' handbooks after the coroner learned that the wireless radiation from a car's remote killed a person by stopping their pacemaker. If you are with a person who has a pacemaker, it is strongly recommended that you use the vehicle's key to enter it, as use of the remote could make you responsible for the death of that person. Canberra is trying very desperately to keep the radiation cause of uncontrollable blood pressure hidden from public knowledge, but I have no choice other than disclose it, as my electricity company wants to install a smart meter, and so far they have not given me any written assurance that it will not have wireless transmission capability. Companies will willingly lie to you and say there is no risk from smart meters, and to quote what I have been told recently by my own supplier, all the safety checks have been done. Of course, what those checks might have been were not disclosed, but it's obvious that the company is either lying through its teeth or the advice is quite incompetent and potentially fatal, as the footage so clearly proves. Companies will often say that meters are harmless because they only transmit between 2 and 6 times per day. This was tested in a United States court case a few years ago, and the manufacturer, rather than go to jail for perjury, admitted meters can transmit up to 132 times per second, which translates to 11,404,800 times per day. If that sort of circumstance applies in Australia, it would certainly explain an awful lot of our uncontrollable blood pressure and a large number of premature deaths. If you have high to very high blood pressure that is difficult to control, and wireless radiation is implicated, you would be wise to demand your meter supplier remove any wirelessly transmitting device as a matter of urgency and replace it with a meter that cannot transmit. Companies will try to give you a hard time over this, but just remember that it is your life they are gambling with, so don't be intimidated. Utility company CEOs tend to think of themselves as immune to prosecution, and many of them only think of murder as taking a person's life with malice aforethought. There is a second definition of murder that used to go something like, any person who takes any action he or she knows or may reasonably suspect may cause the death of another shall be guilty of murder. I would think any CEO who had been informed by registered mail that an installed wirelessly transmitting meter was placing someone with uncontrollable blood pressure at serious risk of death and decided to do nothing about it would be guilty of murder under that second definition. This issue would no doubt have better qualified comment from any one of the increasing number of lawyers now taking on companies due to their EMR damage of clients. Standard blood pressure. The standard blood pressure of this person is usually below 120 on 68. It's now 150 on 90 in the presence of electromagnetic radiation.